On this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast, we're going to be discussing Trophallaxis. This edition of the Pest Geek Podcast is brought to you by Pest Routes. Pest Routes, supercharge your company with Pest Routes, the #1 pest control software to help you dominate your goals. Visit them at pestroutes.com and get your free demo.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. I am Frank Hernandez, your Pest Geek, here discussing all things pest. We want to remind our audience to join in on the revolution. That's right, join in on the conversation, be part of the society. Pest Geek Podcast Listeners Group on Facebook. And we're on YouTube, we're on the web, pestgeekpodcast.com. Check out there the notes, everything that we put into the podcast. They're all on there. And now for today's topic. Now, what is Trophallaxis? Well, Trophallaxis is actually kind of a little sick deal that insects have going on. It's kind of their own little secret. And well, it's basically when insects take food and they regurgitate it back and feed it to their young or share it among nestmates. Yeah. And there's two types of Trophallaxis. It gets worse because there's mouth-to-mouth Trophallaxis and then there's mouth-to-anus Trophallaxis. One is known as stomadile. The other is, proctodile, term where we get proctologist, which is another interesting career by itself. But anyway, most eusocial insects are going to do this habit. They're going to perform this. Ants, roaches, bees, wasps, termites, they all practice this. And this is why it's more effective sometimes to use baits rather than sprays to control a lot of these insects. Let's look at roaches. Well, they transmit it and they regurgitate it back to their nymphs. If you use a product like with indoxacarb, it's great because it'll transmit through the entire system, including their feces, for up to about 4 different stages. So this is what helps control roaches by knowing this behavior. Ants have a little bit of different practice, but they also practice Trophallaxis, and they also practice Trophallaxis by spreading a scent throughout their trail, known as a pheromone trail, that helps them also identify their mates. So this is one of the ways they also use Trophallaxis. In the case of termites use Trophallaxis to feed it to their nymphs, their larvae, throughout basically the entire colony. And this is why bait stations in the ground to control subterranean termites is so effective. Now we have bees and wasps. Well, not all wasps are bad, but wasps use Trophallaxis to share pollen that they collect because a lot of wasps are pollinators, and they also have this behavior. Bees do the same thing. Bees do it when they bring a load back of pollen, they can use it to transfer it from worker to worker, mouth to mouth, to transport the pollen. Well, this is a problem because if you're using sprays in a landscape where there are bees present, you could be contaminating all of the pollen that's in the flower, and when they're taking it back, they're collapsing the colony. Most modern products have label restrictions against spraying for bees when they are present. Let's take a look at this. So here on the EPA website, this is a law that was passed that basically all manufacturers had to comply with this and put this on their label if they could prove that the insecticide, when it was sprayed, could be transferred back to the colony and kill it. In the case of neonicotinoids, they've been under fire for many years, including most big box stores have removed them completely from their shelves. And this is why we do not use, in our practice, any spraying with any neonicotinoids because of these challenges. Can you imagine we go to somebody's lawn or yard and say, we can't spray your yard today, you have bees present? Well, people would lose their mind. So we have to have sound practices in place to control this. But in this case, the label says that new bee icon helps signal pesticide potential hazarding bees. makes clear the pesticide product can kill bees and pollinators. Bees are often present in foraging when plants and tree flowers. Now, the EPA new label makes it clear that pesticides cannot be applied until all the petals have fallen. And this is what most people have to understand. If you can't constantly spray your yard or garden simply because there's bees. I get a lot of calls from people calling me saying, hey, I need you to come and spray my yard. I have bees in my yard. I said, well, that is perfectly normal. The reason you have bees in your yard is because they're picking the pollen from your flowering plants. Now, there's a big difference between having bees in your yard and having a beehive in your structure or a beehive in a tree that is causing problems. And we have to separate the two. So this is what's a common problem. And I want you to see how we're limited by this label when we do this. Check this out. Okay, so here we have a label. Let me make this a little bigger for you. So we have a label right here. So this product is called Safari. It is a great product to use when we have to treat plants in a systemic way, where we inject it into the trunk or we inject it into the soil, and it causes very little risk in that mode to pollinators. But in the case of spraying plants, we have restrictions. Check these out. So in a label, used strictly in accordance to the particular statement, because it is applicable to state and federal regulation. Right up here above that, it's on every single label. It is a violation of federal law to use this product in a manner inconsistent with its labeling. Okay, so by us spraying when there's bee present, we violate federal law and we also violate state law. And this is a huge problem because now we have all these products on the market that we have to know that this is on there, and we have to explain it to homeowners of why we can't spray certain products at certain times of year. And then we have rotation issues and limitations on how many pounds of active ingredient and all these things. But if this is on the label, we can't use it to spray it when bees are present. So again, understanding these restrictions and these benefits that these insects provide us to help control them when they are a pest problem is vitally important. The use of baits over sprays can be more effective at controlling a lot of these pests. So as part of any integrated pest management program or a holistic pest management program, this is vitally important for you to know. We hope you have enjoyed this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. Until next time, have a pestacular day.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.